Autonomous vehicles being trialled in the county this week. The driverless shuttle project is investigating whether a self-driving vehicle is a feasible option on certain routes here. Well, we went for a shot, and to find out more for Callum White for Urban Foresight, the company leading the project.
The technology itself is getting better all the time in terms of the speeds that this technology is able to work within the confines of. At the moment, this autopod is at lower speeds, so we're talking between 10 to 15 miles per hour is the average speed that you would expect this vehicle to go at. When it comes to the shuttle, that speed is increasing, but at the moment we're capped at around 30 miles per hour for that vehicle as it stands. But the vehicle itself is built on an electric vehicle platform, so it is similar to a van actually. In fact, it's a retrofitted van. So you can see that those capabilities, once the technology and everything's kind of a safe environment, then we'll start to ramp up those speeds as the technology improves and progresses.
It's being met with a mixture of caution and curiosity, I suppose. How are you going to convince folk that this is the next good thing?
Yeah, I think with all new technologies, I think we've seen this before when it comes to electric vehicles. Obviously, there's slightly different kind of concerns when it comes to the barometer, with safety being the biggest issue here versus, with an electric vehicle, you're just talking about the change of fuel source and change of those kind of habits in terms of when you charge it. But with these vehicles, it does open up other opportunities in terms of taking some of that burden, in terms of I've said about the flexibility of the vehicle. There's also applications where it could provide a private service for individuals. So, for example, if you're immunocompromised, there could be a service where you could take an autopod from A to B or wherever you need to go without having those effects. We've seen it through COVID and the harms that could have in terms of personal safety. So there's elements there where you're even taking out the driver out of that instance, there is something there. We're trying to make sure that we're understanding what the perceptions are from the council. Like been some concerns online on the internet, and today's about getting people in to really understand, is it the perception before they've been in the vehicle, and just seeing what people think about the vehicle once they've been in it, and that gives us more information to help us understand, is a trial, which would be potentially the next phase of this project, what scale is that at? So we could be looking at a smaller scale trial. So we've been talking to other stakeholders around smaller routes before the airport route, so ones that could be within the autopod, so they could be very short trips, weather kind of safe environments, when you don't want to, it's galing a wind out there today, you don't want to be walking, for example, along the pier to get to your ferry if you're going on the overnight ferry. So whether there's an autopod is an option there to take people along. And then there's also the UNESCO World Heritage Sites. They're situated on a very fast 60 mile per hour road. There's not really much safety in terms of if you're an independent walker and getting between the different sites. There is also a discussion around whether an autonomous vehicle might help you shuttle you from A to B effectively and using this service. So at the moment, coming back to it all, is to get to a trial, we've still got a bit of work to do. We want to work with the stakeholders. We want to use this event to kind of solidify where those next steps would be. But the end of March is when we're aiming to finish this study, and then it gives us a bit of a pathway in terms of whether it's this year or next year, depending on how it goes in terms of getting the things in place that we need.
That was Callum White there for Urban Foresight, and you can see that in action at Hatstone the Day.